This Racing Life with Albasti Equiworld, the leading supplier of horse feeds and supplements.
Welcome back to a new year and a new series of This Racing Life. This week we go behind the scenes at two of the most exciting and up-and-coming young trainers in the country who both had highly successful careers on the point-to-point scene. We're here at Heath Barn, home to Tom Ellis Racing, a family-based operation that dominated the point-to-point world for many years. And after the success of Late Night Pass, they have since hit the ground running under rules.
I think the point-to-pointing, not so much when I was riding them, but now and latterly, that Gina and Jack have been riding them all, and I'm probably a bit biased, but Gina's record to speak for her own, and Jack's does as well. They're two of the best amateurs in the country, and the horses were well ridden. We got them relatively fit, I thought, and Gina's a very, very good feeder of a horse. But most importantly, I felt going into every race we had half a stone in hand, just because who's on their back, really. With a good team of staff now, it's built up over the years, and that's obviously very important. You hear everyone talk about team and all the rest of it, and you think, oh, surely it's a person in charge, but it's not. You can't see everything, you can't do everything yourself, and as a business grows and a yard grows and you get more and more horses, you need to surround yourself with people who you respect what they do and do the job to a high level like you would yourself, and I think that's what we've done well, really.
When we first started training together, I suppose, Tom had always done it his way and I'd always done it my way, and it didn't work that well to start with. It wasn't the best partnership, to be honest, and it probably wasn't until Tom took a backseat from riding and concentrated more on training and me riding that it sort of really started to work. Like, we're both obviously pretty strong-willed, and like I said, I'd got my ways, he'd got his. It was just a case of putting them both together and making it work like that, and yeah, eventually it has, and we've obviously been pretty successful so far.
And the 2018-2019 season for you was a really pivotal one. It was in the point-to-point sphere. It's kind of when things started to really take off for you. What do you think changed around that time specifically? Or did anything change?
I suppose, look, we'd been at it a year or two at that point. Like I say, we'd changed the gallop into a deep sand surface from a poly track surface, and that made a huge difference as to how the horses were running. And yeah, like, we probably had a bigger number than a lot of people did at that point, but that was through a lot of hard work and determination to get the numbers through the door, really. But yeah, well, we broke Jack Barber's record, of 50 winners. We broke that by Easter that year, I think it was. Went on to train 60 odd winners that year. It was phenomenal, really. And we broke it again the following year. I think we had 72. So yeah, look, we had a lot of success point-to-pointing. Produced a lot of really nice young horses through the game, and yeah, learnt an awful lot.
How proud of yourself are you and your team of those achievements?
I'm a pretty humble chap. I don't think I'd ever sort of stand there and pat myself on the back, but I'm exceptionally proud of what we've achieved as a couple, really, and as a team here. You know, I'm a farmer, really, and we've just built this yard that we now train a lot of horses out of, and we keep surprising ourselves every year. We keep having a few more winners anyway.
And was rules training always in the back of your mind when you were pointing? Was that always on the cards, or was that something that came with time?
Probably not initially, no. There was a time during COVID when my business was shut down overnight, basically. What was I going to do with all the horses? What were we going to do with all the staff, etc. And at that point, I started to think about, we really ought to have a licence here. But again, then just sort of brushed it off a little bit, I suppose, after that, and everything went back to normal. And then I suppose really the key time was when there was a chance that Late Night Pass might make it to the National, and I just thought to myself, however long I'm involved with horses, the chance of me having a horse that, my wife's going to ride in the greatest race of the world, and B, one that we've bred ourselves. Like, it'll never happen again. I just thought I can't pass that opportunity up, really.
One of your best days probably in the saddle was when this lad, Late Night Pass, won the Fox Hunters in 2022. I can see your face light up when we mention him. Talk me through that day. What was that whole experience like?
Oh, it was magical. It was like my best day in the saddle, absolutely. He's a horse of a lifetime for us. Never get another one like him. And yeah, to win that race, like, again, it was on my bucket list to win. And I'd had a few good spins around there, but never really been competitive until he came along. And yeah, every time he's around there, he's got round, and then he obviously took me around the National as well. And yeah, I owe a lot to him.
He gave you a great spin in the National.
Oh, I know, he did. Yeah, he was unbelievable, really. I'd love to get another go at it now. I've done it once, but I don't expect
You've got the bug for it now.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was going through your head when you were coming to the last? Because you were leading the Grand National at that stage.
I know. It's just mad, really. I think I had a briefing with Ruby Walsh before the race, and he'd sort of got a lot of stats out and basically said that if you were closer than 8th or 9th, I think it was, at Beaches the second time, you basically wouldn't win. And I remember going to Beaches the second time, and I think I was second, maybe nearly in front, so I'm thinking, well, you're not going to win. But he just jumped so well. He's always been a really strong traveller in his races, which makes my life much easier. He's obviously a phenomenal jumper. Yeah, and I think the race was ran much differently to what I had in my head. Like, I thought it'd go much faster than they did, and I think that's why we all ended up in quite a big heap at the end of the race, and why I was probably still in front jumping the last. And then he obviously didn't quite get home over the trip, but yeah, you couldn't ask for much more from a little 15-2 homebred horse, you know. He's, as Jack says, he's an overachiever.
How do you look back at that whole time? Because even the lead up to that, talking to Tom, with all the cameras and the media, you know, here in the yard, and you drew so much attention to the yard. What was that whole time like?
It was mad. Like, we were having to book people. Like, we had a rota in the end, I think, of booking people in to come and see us. Like, it was mad, really. It was obviously great publicity for the yard. It was good for us. It was at a time when we needed it. So yeah, no, it was good. We really enjoyed it. We embraced it, and yeah.
And how much has he meant for your career?
Oh, everything. He's just the best.
Do you think you could ever have got to where you are now without pointing?
No, it's been a great grounding for us. It really has. I think from a riding perspective, I'd like to see more of those conditional jockeys stay in pointing for a year or two longer than they do.
Do you think they're too eager to get to the professional
ranks? Yeah, you can learn a lot more pointing than people give credit for. You go out and make those mistakes. You've not got TV cameras on you every inch of the race. It gives you that chance, without as much pressure on you as there is under rules, to learn and you know, learn how to ride and produce a horse down to a fence, etc. I think it's a great grounding. Definitely.
And how did you find the transition from going from point to pointing to rules racing?
Tough. We'd gone from dominating an amateur sport to all of a sudden I felt like a very, very small fish in a very, very big sea. But I've enjoyed the challenge of it, and I think the one thing that sort of took me, that I perhaps didn't appreciate enough, was quite how much support you need, and you need owners behind you just constantly supplying horses in a way, because they seem to reach their level and then you need to replace and go forward again, you know. But I guess it's the same with pointing to a certain degree, but just more so at the level we're at now. So
did you have to change your strategy in terms of how you were acquiring horses and
slightly
getting
different,
more quality horses into the yard?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think I sort of said to myself when I started out, I'm not going to try and run before I can walk. And I very much wanted to find my feet in the first year and learn from our own mistakes a bit, and you know, just sort of build as we were going. And I think that's sort of worked out nicely going into year 2. And I have a strategy in my mind where I want to be in 5 years' time, but it's just, I think it's a better way to get there than trying to do it in a flash in the pan, really. taking house about 75 now. Outdoor school, some outdoor pens, lunge pit and a couple of walkers. So.
And tell me the story behind this gallop.
Yeah, so this is new, we put it in this summer. Zach and I put it in ourselves, to be fair. Got a digger off the farm and said about it, and took us about a month to do, but yeah, got it all in, saved a few quid in the process, but no, it's gone in really well. Very happy with it, and yeah, it seems to be working out nicely.
And I guess it's always a challenge with a new gallop to kind of work out the distance, how much it's going to rise. How did you kind of figure that all out?
We kind of picked the lowest point we could find and finished at the highest point, and then assessed a few different routes to get there. Yeah, there was a lot of talk about how we should do the bends and then etc. And yeah, after a lot of debate, we came up with where it is now. So
how did you test that theory out?
We've got a buggy, and we were racing it around the corners. You know, trying to get the line as right as we could, so it would ride hopefully as well as possible on the back of a horse. And Gina and Jack and I spent a whole Sunday doing that, which we had a lot of fun doing. But yeah, I think it was a Sunday well spent, because like I say, I'm pretty pleased with how it's gone in, and it seems to be riding really well, so it's good.
And we've seen how hard it can be for trainers to keep their head above the water financially. So do you find that having those younger horses and being able to trade them kind of supplements the training side of things?
Yeah, from a business side of things, the cash flow is key, like any business really, and the training fees fund the day-to-day running of the yard. But when it comes to building infrastructure and new facilities, you need that big cash injection. So for us, that's been absolutely key from day one. It's all been funded basically through trading the horses, and yeah, without that we wouldn't have been able to build what we have. So yeah, it is important definitely for us, and like I say, it's something that I think we will reduce slightly going forward, but we will continue to have a good few stores every year, and just because I think it's a nice education for them as well, going down the point-to-point route.
Tom, we're here with Leroy Remy, who was so impressive on debut at Sandown for you. How exciting is it to have a horse like him in your yard?
Oh, it's tremendously exciting, yeah. Literally the world is at his feet, to be honest. I thought he'd run really well, but I didn't expect him to go and do what he did.
Because he showed such a good turn of foot, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Look, he's a proper stayer in the making, and Gina had him to go point in last year, and he put a nice performance in that day in what turned out to be a farcical race. It was voided due to a mishap on the course, but he put in a nice performance. So it wasn't a complete shock that he'd got a level of ability, but I didn't expect him to go and do what he did there.
Were you expecting to have to take him to the sales after that point-to-point? Because it was voided, that kind of forced your hand to keep him?
Yeah, exactly that really, and he was going to be a tricky sell at the sales. When you have to start explaining what's gone on in a race, it's tough. But no, going to Sandown, I thought Ben Pauling's horse would be a tough nut to crack, because we obviously had him as well in the point-to-point. He won for us at the start of last season, or for Gina at the start of last season, so we kind of knew where he was a little bit, and yeah, he did surprise me, this horse, definitely.
And you could tell up the straight, even when he quickened, he was still really raw and a bit babyish. So,
oh yeah,
are you sure there's plenty of improvement to come from him?
He shouldn't have been able to do what he's done with physically how he is. You know, he's so weak, and he just needs time really to fill his frame. But no, hugely exciting horse going forward, and so thrilled for the owner, Paddy Jago. He's, you know, for him to put that amount of trust in us was fantastic for us, obviously, so it was nice to repay him with a nice win like that.
And you talked about jockeys maybe being too eager getting their professional licences. Jack has recently got back his professional licence. How much does that continuity benefit you as a trainer, having Jack riding the majority of your horses?
I think any yard that, you know, of a certain size that is lucky enough to have somebody who commits to riding the majority of them, you build a relationship and you get continuity and feedback. You know where the horses are coming from, where they're trying to get to. Jack's a brilliant rider. He's as good as any professional in my view, a full-blown professional now. He's ridden 274 winners. There's no other £3 claimer who's done that. You know, and he's all the experience in the world, and I trust him implicitly. And like that makes such a difference. You know, the minute you leg that person up on the horse, it's down to them at that point. Whatever you've done leading up to there is then irrelevant. You know, you need them to go and do the right thing by the horse, the right thing for the next day, the right thing for the owner. You know, and that's what I think he's really good at.
I was very lucky. I had plenty of winners when I turned conditional before, and I got on really well. And after 3 or 4 months, I just wasn't enjoying it. Found it a very lonely place. Wasn't attached to any yard in particular, and doing a lot of miles on my own, living on my own, and yeah, I didn't enjoy it. And having been a part of this team for so long, I wanted to get back part of that, and so I turned back pointing and had another really good couple of years of it. And obviously then when Tom took his licence out, it just seemed a stupid thing not to do, to have another go at it. And I said to Tom in the summer, last summer, when I was deciding whether or not to do it, I said, "What do you think?" And he said, "Honestly," I said, "Yeah, honestly, you can tell me." He's like, "Definitely do it." I was like, righto. So got on and did it, and I'm glad I have, and haven't looked back since.
And what's it like having the support around you with Tom and Gina, and having the support of the yard? How much confidence does that give you in your riding?
Oh, huge. I think that's something I struggled with when I was conditional before, is not the pressure as such, but not being able to feel like you could go out and do what you wanted. And I feel like now, as much as we have a plan going out on the day's racing, that if I get to the start and I feel like I need to do something completely different, I have full confidence in Tom, Gina and the owners that I can do what I want. And as a rider, I couldn't tell you how important that is. Like, you can just go out there with a free hand and do what you think's best by the horse, and that's always the best way.
How would you assess how things are going so far this year?
Going well, yeah, I'm happy with them really. I think the horses have taken a bit of a step forward from the new facilities we got, and I feel like, yeah, we're well on track to where I want to be anyway.
Max Comley is one of the youngest trainers in the country, and he enjoyed great success on the point-to-point field, which he is now trying to replicate under rules. We've come along to his brand new yard here in Wiltshire to find out how he's settling in and discuss his aspirations and hopes for the future.
My school was the other side of Cheltenham Racecourse. You know, growing up, we always used to sort of go around the outside. There's like a footpath that runs around the outside of the track, and on race days we'd always go out there with friends and, you know, watch the racing sort of up close, but not in the grandstand. And I then learnt to ride horses at a sort of a young age, and, you know, through riding schools, and then sort of through like point-to-point trainers and hunters and that sort of stuff, and just took sort of advantage of any opportunity that came my way. I mean, you know, I grew up in the middle of Cheltenham, so I wasn't surrounded by, you know, farms or trainers or anything like that. So it was all just through sort of meeting, you know, people through sort of pony club and that sort of stuff really. Did a little bit of pony racing, not very much, and then as soon as I turned 16 and finished my GCSEs, I, you know, left school, left home, and you know, cracked straight on to get into racing.
But you spent time at Kim Bailey's. Tell me about that period.
Yeah, so Kim Bailey was only, you know, a stone's throw away from where I grew up. So he's just outside of Cheltenham, and so I actually did my work experience at his when I was at school. So I must have only been probably 14 then. I went in there and rode out for a couple of weeks, and Matt he was still a head lad then, so he was still sort of riding out, and he was still sort of one of the team then, so that's how long ago that was. And anyways, that sort of got my foot in the door there. So as soon as I finished school, you know, I was quite keen to go back there. I was hooked, and I thought it was a really good place for a young person to learn how to look after horses properly, how to, you know, train horses properly. And, you know, I didn't walk around there with my eyes closed. I was there for a good few years, and, you know, that's where I met David Bass, who rides for me now. And, you know, it's a really good team. I mean, Jason Maguire, he just won a Grand National when he was riding for Kim there, and Nick Schofield was a young lad coming through then, and you know, Charles Green, Ed Cookson, you know, were a few of the people riding for him at the time. So, you know, it was a good few years ago, but it was when Kim was really starting to make a name for himself again. You know, he had a good horse like Harry Topper coming through, and Abel Deputy was winning countless races through the summer with AP on, and, you know, it was a yard that was going places. I think when I started there was about 35, 40 horses there. When I left there must have been, every barn was full, so I'd imagine about 72 or so, and he trained 60 winners a season. It was, you know, it was great. It was just before he had the first flows and all those that went to one of those grade ones for him, and you know, it's a really exciting place to be at that time.
Yeah, so Max worked for Kim and we met there, and we always got on pretty well. And then he went obviously training point-to-pointers, and we kept in touch. And I followed his career in the point-to-point world. I think I actually even owned a few point-to-pointers that he trained. He didn't win with them. And then he said a couple of years ago that he was going to get his licence out, and I was like, yeah, it'd be good to ride for you. And so yeah, but no, we're good friends, and you know, Max is very ambitious, very driven. So I suppose we have a lot in common in that way. And he's a good trainer that has got a lot of self-belief. So he's good to work with.
And when did that decision come into your mind to hang up your boots and park the riding and take on the adventure of training racehorses?
Yeah, so I never actually sat down and said I want to become a racehorse trainer. So when I stopped riding in point-to-points, I had a few friends that owned bits and bobs of racehorses and point-to-pointers, and I was living on a lovely estate in Cirencester at the time, and there's a few stables there, a few empty stables, and I sort of, you know, jested with them saying, you know, I could train these in the afternoon while I'm sort of jobless really, while I didn't have anything to do when I stopped race riding. And so they said, yeah, look, you know, you have a bit of fun. And so I did. And, you know, they won a few races, did a few more empty boxes, a few sort of owners I had ridden for had sent me a few horses. And it went from there, really. It was it was sort of 2 horses turned to 4, 4 turned to 8. And then we outgrew that small yard in Cirencester and moved to the village of Naunton in the Cotswolds.
So it was something that happened really kind of naturally and almost by accident for you?
Yeah, that side of things did. I mean, you know, when I first started training, I was probably quite unnatural with communication side of things, the dealing with owners, trying to attract new owners. You know, I'd only really wanted to train for friends at the time when I set up, so it was a bit of a leap into the unknown to try and get new people in, new owners in, and to try and sort of build a business. You know, I never had any sort of business qualifications, nothing like that. So it was all completely alien to me. But you know, we had good people around us, and you know, I was quite keen to take on the challenge, and I'm pleased I did.
Absolutely. And when did you feel that things started to change for you? Because I know the 23-2024 season for you was when things really took off. But in your mind, was that when things really started to click?
I think so. You know, the yard we were at then probably wasn't like a proper racing yard as such. It, you know, had a little gallop, and it was, you know, it's more of sort of a pre-training yard there really, but we found a way to make it work, and it took us a long time to learn how to use the gallop there. We were trying to do too much on it, then we weren't doing enough on it, and it was just that gentle balance really with making it work. But we got there eventually, and as soon as, you know, all the pieces clicked into place, the horses are running much better. We probably found some nicer types, attracted better owners, and you know, the season before, that good season we had with the point-to-pointers, we trained a couple of classic winners, which is like the higher grade race for point-to-pointers, and we had a good horse who won 3 of those in the season, and that sort of kick-started us to get some better horses and give it a real kick.
And your name is obviously on the point-to-point licence, and you're very
Yes.
involved in that. Talk us through what you do with the pointers here.
The pointers, it's honestly not dissimilar from how we train the normal horses here, to be honest. I mean, you know, the way we train them at the minute is obviously working, so if you can train the pointers like that, it's fantastic. But it's quite nice. The pointers used to be a lot of the young horses, and obviously then when you find a nice one, they're off to the sales, and so, you know, we don't have many young horses pointing anymore, and it's just quite nice. The old handicappers, or, you know, a lot of the staff have pointers and stuff, so that's really great to have them. So yeah, the pointers is trained how we train here, all fed the same stuff as well, so yeah.
But it's really collaborative between yourself and Max, even
definitely.
with the rules horses as well. It's a real joint effort.
It is a joint effort. I would definitely say, obviously, I've learnt so much from him over the years, and I'm now trying to filter that through to my pointers as well, and he's fantastic to learn off as well. So yeah, I've learnt a lot off him, which I'm trying to do with my own horses. So we've got our first runner in, I think, 2 weeks at Cocklebarrow, so fingers crossed that goes well. I've learnt enough anyway, I hope.
Will that be a nerve-wracking day for you?
Yeah, I had the pointers last year, so that was fantastic. You know, our first 3 runners were winners and a classic winner, so we didn't get off to a bad start, but hopefully we keep the same momentum up this season anyway.
I was lucky enough to ride a nice 4-year-old winner for him, and then when that progresses and you see them doing well under rules, and then Max doing well under rules, then it's nice to see the progression, yeah.
And when we've come in this morning, it seems like a really exciting yard to be a part of. It's obviously up and coming. They've had great success so far. It must give you some inspiration coming into a yard like this as well to kind of give it a new flavour to things?
Yeah, absolutely. It's what you need. A young trainer that's ambitious and hungry for success as young jockeys are as well. It's nice to hopefully build up with Max and help along with the success and the move down to the new yard, his own facilities. You can see hunger to do well here.
Brilliant facilities, they've trained a Derby winner here, Grade 1 winners here, got a mile-long round gallop too. There's loads of sort of stuff we can do with the horses here. It's lovely countryside. They're fit, they're well, they're running nicely, and we're very happy here.
How long did it take for you to kind of settle into life here and using the new facilities? How much did they differ to what you had at your old place?
We settled in quite quickly, really. I mean, the principles are all the same. We were training up a hill gallop before, 3.5 furlongs before. It's, the hill here is 4 furlongs, so a lot of the work we do up the hill. So the fundamentals of it are very similar. We haven't changed things too much. I mean, the gallop here is probably a bit more severe than before. It took the horses a good few weeks to sort of adjust, but they're getting there now. They've been running well, and just trying not to overcomplicate things, really, keep it simple. We've got a really good team around us, good team of jockeys, and feedback's everything, and we listen to them and change things accordingly.
How exciting is it for you in this early stage of your career to have a horse like Manganese in the yard?
It's massive, we want to be competing on the big days, we want to have good horses, and a horse like her is hopefully going to be able to take it to the big days.
And so talk me through her 2 runs, because the run at Leicester, she was pretty much completely wiped out by the loose horse, got completely taken off the track, but still managed to come and win a race.
Yeah, Leicester was impressive. It was a difficult race to read, but no, we wanted to keep it really simple with her, just pop out, and how David likes to ride, and just get her in a rhythm, get her enjoying herself. And anyway, after 2 hurdles, a loose horse took her off the track. She was, probably lost 25 lengths, and yeah, she had a lot to do then, and the race suddenly changed very quickly. Sam Twiston on James Owen's horse, he kicked on, and that probably wasn't ideal for him, and then we had to go and chase him, and just got there after the last. But like I say, it was a hard race to read, because you could argue that the James Owen horse had to kick on far too soon and didn't quite get home, but in the same breath, we got taken off the track, and so it was good to back that up at Catterick. That couldn't have gone any better. It's smooth. She travelled, she jumped, she did everything we asked her to do, and she looked impressive. So we're very excited by her.
And she must have a pretty sound mind for a filly to be able to deal with what happened at Leicester and still come back out and win her race.
She's incredibly laid back. You can see just in her, in the stable, she's very relaxed, she's very chilled. She's
falling asleep?
Yeah, she takes it on in her stride, and with Leicester, a lot of other horses, they'd have been quite sort of shaken by that sort of experience, but she, if it was going to happen to any horse, it could have happened to her, because it didn't faze her. She's very professional for her age, and she was able to get back into the race. And I think that loose horse actually ran out just in front of her. I think it was 3 or 4 out, and she stayed straight, and she was very honest, and it's just testament to her character, really, and the instructions she's had in France.
Has she shown that at home as well? Is she pretty laid back?
Yeah, she's not the best workhorse. She works with, some fairly ordinary horses, and, they'll make her look fairly ordinary. I think she's got a lot of longevity in her, because she doesn't overdo herself. She's not, too keen. She's not too lazy. She just does what you ask her to do. She's a very likeable horse in that respect.
Are you allowing yourself to dream that this filly could be potentially a graded filly in the future, or a filly that could take you to the festivals in the spring?
I wouldn't be doing this job if I didn't dream. It's one of those where, only being my 2nd season, and to have a horse like her that could take us to the big days and everything, of course we dream about it, and you look at sort of future targets sort of very quietly, and you don't tell anyone about it, but you have a look and think, what if, and look, if she goes and wins at Doncaster, then the sky's the limit, and we can see where we end up.
Well, sadly, that's all we've got time for on this week's episode of This Racing Life. Thank you to all our guests that have very kindly opened their doors to us this week. We will see you again next time.
This Racing Life with Albasti Equiworld, the leading supplier of horse feeds and supplements.